Hello, everyone. It is certainly a pleasure to be back with you once again. I welcome you to segment 10 of my 12-part series, Focus on You, Knowing, Understanding, and Caring for Self. If you have been following the previous 9 segments, you will come to appreciate that the goal of this series is to help you to become more familiar with the things concerning you and how you can take the control so that you can have a more fulfilling and healthy and happy life. We have gone down a path that has helped or was intended to help you as a viewer understand those essential aspects that make you who you are. Thus, our discussions have been focusing on the mind-body-spirit connection. Today, we continue as we look at the mind-body-spirit health connection, because whatever is going on in your mind affects what goes on in your body, and then your spirit, which basically is your breath, your existence, the essence of who you are and why you are here, is also most important to your state of well-being. We have spent so much time in the previous segments talking about the thought processes, because the thought processes are equivalent to what we know as our mind. It is the influence on what takes place in our bodies, and it also has an impact on our spirituality, albeit that the spirit that resides in us has been there from the point of entry into this world. If you recall the scripture, we are of no value. We are basically nothing until we have received the breath of life, which is in essence the Spirit of God. If you are a Bible believer and someone who believes in the creation, you will know that it says that when God breathed into the nostrils of man, we become a living soul. Likewise, when the infant is birthed, it is only when he takes his first breath that he is considered alive. And that is why in the first few minutes of life, there is an assessment to see whether or not the child is alive or whether he is dead. And so, coming back now to our mind, body, spirit health connection, we realize that our health, our state of well-being, is dependent on a balance, as we suggested in the previous segment, between the mind, the body, and the spirit. Again, for emphasis, I want to remind you of the definition of health as proposed by the World Health Organization. And that definition states that health is a state of mental, physical, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. So, if we have mental, physical, and social well-being, then we are considered healthy. Not that we don't have any ailments that we know of, but that we are balanced in our existence between the mind, the body, and the spirit. Again, we know that, or perhaps we don't know, in all honesty, not all of us know that our thoughts affect our physical well-being. And our thoughts, as we have established in the previous segments, are driven by the external forces, the interactions that we have with our environment, conversations with others, touching, smelling, feeling, tasting. These are what influence and drive our behaviors, our responses, our thoughts, our decisions. And so therefore, when we look at thoughts more closely, we realize that there are external forces and there are internal forces. I would like to equate our internal force to that of the spirit that resides in us. Some of us refer to it as intuition, others refer to it as source, others as the Spirit of God. But that particular entity is very sacred. It does not lead us down a wrong path. Anyone who have had an experience where they would have said, "My mind told me." It's not the mind, but it is intuition. The mind itself actually is an end product of the conscious decisions, the thought processes that we encounter from moment by moment. But when intuition speaks to us, that is something deeper. It is beyond our recognition, and sometimes because we are so busy, we don't even acknowledge it. We hear it, we dismiss it on some occasions, and for those of us that are more grounded, we are somehow more tapped in and turned on and in sync with that inner guidance that we have. Our external guidance, however, seem to dominate, and as a result of that, we accept these external guidelines as some form of truth. Why? Because we can see it, we can feel it, we can touch it, and we have seen the effect of it on some persons. But what is most important is the fact that what we observe is not consistent with all that is. What do I mean by that? There are variations in outcomes. And that brings me now to us coming to the acceptance that much of what we believe are grounded in somebody else's opinion or what is referred to as theory. There are other things that we believe that are called laws, such as the laws of the universe. We know one of the laws has to do with gravity. What goes up must come down. 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4. These are what are considered facts because they do not change. Whether you go to China or stay in the Bahamas or go to the United States of America or any part of Europe, 2 + 2 will always be 4. That's a general rule or even a law. What goes up will come down is also a law. But when it comes now to things pertaining to our health, those are less concrete. We know that, for instance, one of the most common things that we know that goes around is if you smoke cigarette, you will die from cancer. But is that true for every individual? No, it's not. There are some people who have smoked cigarettes all their lives, 2 and 3 packs a day for 30 and 40 years, and they have never developed cancer. Another thing, if you eat animal fats, you will get heart attack or you will get cholesterol increases. Again, is that a fact? For some persons, it's a reality. For others, it has no relevance. Why am I sharing this with you? I'm sharing this to let you know that each of us have a unique existence. And so no matter what information is out there, you have to apply that information to you on a personal level. What goes on in Jean Ambrister body does not go on in Anthony Foster's body or even Jeanette Anderson. Each one of us have a different biological predisposition to the things that we encounter. Nevertheless, our bodies respond similarly, meaning our bodies are made up of virtually the same types of organs, cells, systems, and all of the body systems, organs, and cells have particular functions and responses. Even when it comes to family, what they call hereditary traits, those are influenced by our environmental experiences from one day to the other and our response to those experiences. So what is important above all is that we know, understand, and then take actions to care appropriately for our bodies. It means we must accept that we are unique. So what Joe is able to do and get away with, John cannot. Because John has his unique predisposition and makeup and responses to environmental factor, and Joe has his. Joe and John cannot live by the same principles to the letter. There are variations because those variations are not laws, they are guidelines. And those guidelines are what we must use in order to determine what we need. Now, how do we know what we need? We must become familiar with ourselves. What stops us from becoming familiar when there is so much information out there? It is our busyness. It is our neglect of self. It's not tuning in to our inner guide. Our inner guide knows everything about us. Yes, God, our Creator, knows each of us. The scripture says He knows the very strand of hair on our heads. As you can see, I have very tight curls, and there are numerous strands of hair on my head. For another person, their curls may not be as tight, and the strands may not be as many. But, excuse me, for each of us, our God, our Creator, knows us individually. Our body response is unique, much like our fingerprint. And so therefore, we must slow down. Listen, our body speaks to us. How many of you have heard of cravings? There is so much information and so much misinformation about everything. If I was to crave chocolate, my impulse will say, oh, according to all the health professionals, chocolate is not good for me. But do you know that the craving of chocolate tells you that there is something that your body needs that is essential? Oh, so what essential does chocolate have when healthcare professionals says it's not healthy? Well, there are micronutrients in chocolate. Chocolate comes from cocoa. Whilst there are elements such as sugar and milk that may be animal-based that you may have an allergy to or that may predispose you, there is something called balance. There is something called unique reaction. So you must know and you must learn what is for you and what is not. The only way you will know that is by tapping in, tuning in, and listening to your body. And then take those bits of information that is out there, compare, contrast, select, and apply. Not everything applies to you. Do not allow it to stress you out. Take time to know you. What is for you will work providing you take the time. There is a formula that I would have presented in previous segments outside of this 12-part series called the New Start, where you focus on your nutrition, your exercise, or mobility, moving your body for the health of it. Then there's water, there's sunshine, there is temperance, where you exercise moderation in everything that you do. There is getting fresh air. There is making sure that you have the adequate amount of rest. And of course, your relationship with God, which is trust. So when you look back at the definition of health that the World Health Organization provides for us, the New Start fits right into that. And both the New Start and the World Health Organization's definition of health fits into that desire that is expressed as being that held by your Creator for you to prosper and be in good health. And even as it comes to prosperity and health, one affects the other. If you focus too much on health without focusing on having the prosperity for you to be able to plug in those essentials in order to get the right amount of health or the right balance, then you may end up in poverty. But do you notice that the majority of us focus on prosperity? We're busy running after the money. But what do we get? Hard work, suffering, hard work. Hard work or suffering, or hard work and suffering. We can work hard, but we need to work smart. We don't need to run ourselves into the ground in order for us to prosper and be in good health. And we don't need to sit still on our couches and be inactive whilst we are suffering financially. There has has to be a balance. Balance is everything. And when we seek to align ourselves, we will encounter healthy prosperity as our soul prospereth. How is it that our soul prosper, but we don't have health or wealth? That's because of our beliefs. That's because of our habits. That's because we are led astray to believe the theories of others. They're not laws. They don't say that if you do this, you will succeed, guaranteed. No, the only guarantee that you have is when you learn yourself and make the necessary adjustments, you will indeed acquire and achieve peace. Remember, the purpose for which we came into this world is not to get rich. It's not to be sexy. It is to grow, to love, and experience joy. Growth, love, experience joy. Prosperity, good health, even as your soul prospereth. And many of us don't even acknowledge that we are prospering spiritually because we're so distracted by the pursuit for other things. Happiness does not come from things. Happiness comes from inside. When we are in tune with our Creator, when we are hearing His voice and His directions, we are at our happiest. We never fail. We're never ill. Even if we have infirmities, we are not despondent. We are in a state of joy, contentment, peace. So, I say to you, pursue peace, pursue growth, but you must understand that that will not happen in the routine state of running after things. We must run after serenity, quiet moments, hearing that still small voice, that inner voice, and paying attention to it. And if we do, we will never, ever go wrong. I am Audrey Mellayne, your Mould Breaker Doc. I say thank you for joining me here on Mould Breaker Empowerment Forum for yet another enlightening segment. I invite you back for the final 2 segments on this series, because as we wrap up, you will now be looking at how to get to you. How do I tap into me, learn more about me, and become a better version of myself so that I can live my best life now? Mould Breaker Empowerment Forum is a production of the Mould Breaker Empowerment Education and Empowerment International Network, where the goal is to educate, empower, and help each individual learn more about what they can do to improve their personal health and well-being. I say to you, break every mold that have you constrained to habits that do not serve you. Join me again here next week at the same time, where we will begin to bring this series to its close. I thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care, enjoy your day, the rest of your week, and stay safe. You are number one. So keep it that way.